Поки що на Ютубі заставка.
Паш, чекаємо, коли ти виведеш Іллю, щоб його було видно. Все?
О, бачу. Всім привіт. Мене звати Ілля Глечтейн, продюсер-дистриб'ютор, співвласник кінотеатру «Кіно 42». І я сьогодні модеруватиму дискусію «Cherchez femme», слово кураторів. Це подія, яка відкриває фестиваль 7+7, організований онлайн-платформою Takflix і лондонським короткометражним кінофестивалем. І такий на сьогодні буде розпорядок. Зараз я вам дещо розкажу про цей фестиваль, те, що знаю про нього я. Потім ми подивимося трейлер цього фестивалю і потім підключимо, власне, кураторів у розмову, з якими ми будемо втрьох говорити, а ви зможете задавати свої питання у коментарі на Фейсбуці та Ютубі. Зараз я пару слів скажу англійською. So if you happen to watch this video right now and you don't understand anything, please go to YouTube. There it's going to be with English translation. Українською мовою все транслюється на Фейсбуці. Тож фестиваль 7+7 – це міжнародна подія, в якій дві кураторські команди об'єдналися для того, щоб зробити ресерч і представити результат цього ресерчу по жіночому короткометражному кіно у Британії та в Україні в усі періоди історичні від моменту створення кінематографії. Дещо вийшло 7 британських коротких метрів і 7 українських коротких метрів, створених жінками-режисерками, адже саме це є фокусом цієї програми і цієї події сьогоднішньої. І зараз я пропоную подивитися трейлер тих фільмів, які ви зможете почати дивитись вже за 2 дні. Павло, будь ласка, запускай трейлер. Які стали невід'ємною частиною цього цифрового світу, в якій ми живемо, який нас суперсильно обмежив в результаті ковіду, але який так круто розширив наші можливості. І тепер від самої концепції онлайн-фестивалю нікому вже і не дивно, нікого цим не здивувати. І це дає можливості більшій кількості людей насолоджуватись кіно і організовувати якісь більш складні процеси. От як, наприклад, у фестивалі 7+7. організованим платформою Takflix та лондонським короткометражним кінофестивалем. І зараз зі мною тут, в цій віртуальній студії, знаходиться Надія Парфан, засновниця платформи Takflix. Це єдина незалежна українська VOD-платформа, повністю створена з нуля цими ручками, якими Надя тільки що махала. І Філіп Ілсон – це художній директор, артистик директор і співзасновник короткометражного лондонського кінофестивалю. Ці двоє скурували програму фестивалю 7+7 і зараз будуть про це розповідати. Я почну з Філіпа, який більше розкаже про програмну концепцію, а Надя більше розкаже про те, як це все дивитися, в якій послідовності, і поширить свій екран. Тож, Філіп, тобі слово.
Дуже дякую, що запросили лондонський фестиваль короткометражного кіно також. Коли Надя до нас звернулася щодо цього проєкту, це було надзвичайно цікаво для нас, тому що ми могли подивитися на деякі наші фільми, які ми можемо...
To think of films, a lot older films, further back to the beginnings of cinema and historical short films by women that maybe people have forgotten about, or filmmakers who are not so much in the public eye. So to come up with this final program has been definitely a challenge because, you know, it's always a challenge to find films that are available to screen and available to show online, but also really exciting as well to come up with a final program with a really strong selection, really strong selection of both UK and Ukrainian works.
Дякую, Філіпе.
Thank you, Philip. So, Nadia, then back to you. So, can you tell us the story of it from your point of view and from your side, and maybe you can add up something to the overall concept of the festival, how you have collaborated together on creating that, and get us into the technical resolution, how we can be able to watch it both from UK and Ukraine. Yes, hi everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you at this opening of the festival. You know, today the festivals are being opened like that, when you're sitting in different points of space, in different points of internet, in different interfaces as well, and trying to understand one another and trying to get into good conversation. It's not that easy sometimes, but it's very good that we're trying to work on that. Maybe we will learn something more, and maybe we'll be more ready to the new world. So how did we come up with an idea of the festival? On one hand, I had my own ideas as a director because, you know, I am this doubled person. On one hand, I am the curator, and as a curator, I was trying to figure out this moment at certain point of time. But as a director, I have finally understood for myself that all of the characters and protagonists of my films are men. Even though I am very pro-feministic person, I'm really interested in female experience, and I do believe that the female experience is not represented in film. But I never did it as a director myself. And I've understood that it's much more complicated because you have no foundation to do that in our tradition. And sometimes it even seems a little bit innovative, as some of the grandsons like this words. And I've started to gain my interest in female directors, in their biographies, in their professional choices, and in their films, how they come up with their creative tasks, how they have used female characters in their films, because it doesn't work as a film mechanics. You know, you cannot just say a story of a female Odysseus. It's going to be a different story than the stories of the Odysseys that we all know. So I've started to look for those interesting stories, and I've understood that there is a really powerful tradition, a powerful expression of those films. And it was very interesting for me to take a broader look on that, because the national cinema on the Ukrainian film history, it doesn't doesn't give you the full scope of view of what female film is, because, you know, those geographical borders, they're sometimes artificial. So that is why we've created this very paradoxical program, different contexts, different film histories, and we've decided to do that. And I'll be honest with you, it's also been built on this personal friendship. We're acquainted with Philip, and I know he's a very adventurous person. He's always interested in getting engaged into something new. So that was interesting for us to try that. The program is very diverse. It's very diverse history-wise, genre-wise. We have silent films. We have films that have been made in 2021. And for example, we're going to have the Ukrainian premiere by the film by Anastasia Babanko, The Diaper Cake. So we have actually the films between the mothers of cinema and up to the debutantes. So I'm really proud of it. But I would like to tell you a little bit more about the interface, because it's an online festival. And right now I'm going to show you a little bit how it looks like. So, and I'll also be able to tell you that this is the product of the work of the huge Takflix team that is currently following us online, but there has been a tremendous group of people that have been working on that. So now you can see our site. It is can be found at 7+7.takflix.com. So basically, the most important thing here is the language settings. You can choose either English or Ukrainian. I'm going to use Ukrainian now for this example's sake. And here you can find everything that is needed. This is, by the way, Maya Darren, who is the director and the actress in our program film, The Mashes of the Afternoon. I think it's around 1940s, and there is the one shot from Mary Field's film. And here you can choose what it is that you would like to watch. Every Thursday, and another pair of films will be open. So there will be one film from Ukraine, one film from the UK. So there is one film from Ukraine today, which is The Mashes of the Afternoon, another film by Mary Field, 4 and 25th Girls. So you will be able to see all of the films that will be presented. You can read out everything about those. So by the way, very good film by Yevgeny Grigorovich, To a Woman About a Woman. You can see the teaser, the synopsis, the information about the director. All of that is also available in English, so you can just press it here. Just not to forget what is located where. You can take a look at the schedule, which is basically here as well. It is all organized in weeks. You can see the films here, and you can see some special events that will take place at every week and the links. It will last for 7 weeks. It's absolutely free of charge. The films are available both in Ukraine and UK. The online events are available anywhere you are. In order to be able to reach the events, you just have to click here. You see, you're just clicking it here and you are on the special event page. And for you to watch the film, you have to log in. That's painless. So you can try to do that through Facebook, for example, or using your email. You see, I'm already logged in, and the film will be available in 2 days on Thursdays, but it's not a long time to wait. And you will just then press this play button, and you will see there's going to be the video player. You can rewatch it multiple times, and you can rewatch those films multiple times in those 7 days that it will be available. And it's very good that those films are quite short. So if you'll have any questions, just let us know in English, in Ukrainian. We will answer that in any social media. Yes, thank you very much, Nadia, for this both technical and conceptual tour. Philip, next question is to you. Can you please tell us about which British films you have selected? What were your main, why have you chosen those films? What were the tasks for you that you have identified for yourself? And what are the things that Ukrainian audience should take a look at or should take their attention to? What maybe is published for the very first time online? What did you want to say with this program?
Okay, that's a lot of questions. Yes, so as I said at the beginning, it was trying to find films from other parts of film history, which isn't that easy in terms of what's available by women filmmakers from the past. But we were really lucky to to get a film directed by Mary Field, which will be shown as from this Thursday, which is Mary Field was a really pioneering filmmaker. She should have been a household name. In a way, she was a household name. She had a really long career following the 1940s and 1950s, and she was very important for British TV, specifically for children's TV in the 1960s, where she developed lots of children's programs. And then she sadly died, I think, in the late 1960s. But she has a real legacy as a producer, as a TV producer, but also this legacy of her own films from earlier in her career, a lot of which were around nature. She was involved in making a lot of nature films, but we're really excited to get something from her slightly different, which is around keep fit, hence the title 4 and 20 Fit Girls. In terms of the other filmmakers that have been selected, it was really nice to get some pioneers in the program. So specifically Ngozi Onwurah, who is a Black British female director who began making student films in the 1980s, and then some more funded short films, including the film that we are screening called Body Beautiful. She was also the first Black British woman director to make a commercial feature film in the mid-90s. She made a kind of sci-fi feature called Welcome to the Terror Dome, which is regarded as a classic. In the early 2000s, she made a TV film called Shoot the Messenger, which starred the first ever role by Daniel Kaluuya, who we know has gone on to win an Oscar for films like Get Out and many other films that he's been in. So she's a really interesting director, still very much working, very much around. Annette Kennelly is also a pioneering director in queer cinema. She makes a lot of personal diary films, and after the break, the film that we're screening is, as it says, it's about a breakup with a girlfriend that happened in the 90s, and has a very good 90s feel to it. So for those that are looking for nostalgia. Also, we have a film by Sarah Wood, who's an experimental filmmaker, but makes a lot of work using archive. And I Want to Be a Secretary as a look back to how women were portrayed in the 1950s as housewives, as homekeepers. It's a very playful film. It's very funny. Definitely fits nicely against the Ukrainian film that we'll also be screening as part of that pair. And then we have some animation from Ruth Lingford, who's again another pioneering figure in animation, still very much making work at the moment. And then we have two more recent films. Slightly earlier, we have Good Night by Muriel Danzenberg, which did a lot of festivals, was nominated for a BAFTA, a very strong teenage coming-of-age drama. And a film called Endo, which is the most recent film by Alice Seabright, which is a very dark comedy. It's nice to have a comedy in the program. We don't want everything to be too heavy. So it's a really nice mix of experimental, of comedy, of documentary, and of animation.
Дякую, Філіпе. Надя,
Thank you, Philip. So Nadia, I think that I would like to ask you to do the same about the Ukrainian participants of the film festival. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about every film, or maybe you will do some of the highlights. What is the best for you? Okay, Ukrainian program was a definitive program, and our main methodology and our main approach to this methodology was that we have started with Ukrainian films and tried to find the best fitting pairs from the UK. So we've started as that, but it was never that linear. We've always has been searching for a lot of content from a lot of films, and I'm really satisfied with this result. I'm proud of this. I'm proud of this selection. There's not a lot of films that we're showing, but they're powerful and cool. I can speak a lot about all of these films, but we will run out of time really fastly. And I would like to ask each and every one of you to choose the films that you would like to watch. You can take a look at the trailers and you can find what is going to be the best fitting for you. But as Philip has said as well, it's very good that we have the historical part of it, the early film pioneers. And starting with that, then it's about Maya Deren, because we have been hunting it for more than half a year before we have found the right owners, when we have found this copy. We wanted to have a teaser on YouTube. YouTube has already banned us. We have had copyright claims, so this is something very exclusive. And this is a woman that has been born in Ukraine. Of course, we know that it's a very provocative act from our side to call her Ukrainian, and this is a certain type of, gaming from our side as well. But we can say that's basically, and all of the films that are in constant dialogue between Ukraine and UK, and they're also in a historical dialogue with one another. We also have Kira Muratova and the Ophelia, one of the three stories trilogy. That is an absolutely great pearl, the gem of absurdist films, and I would like to invite you to watch that as well. From the very contemporary films, and I has already said, we're going to have a premiere from Anastasia Babanko's The Diaper Cake film. This is a Ukrainian director who lives in Seattle. That's her first feature film. We're going to have Lilac by Katarina Hornostai, the short film that has had multiple awards and has been seen among the festivals but has never been shown to the broader public. We're going to have The Bond by Жанна Озірна, a very interesting queer documentary film, very intimate, very personal film. So just watch everything. Everything is really cool. Okay, so yes, by the way, from my side, I can as well say that Bond, the film by Жанна Озірна, was awarded. There was the first place where it was screened. It was at the 86 Film Festival that we have organized together with Nadia and our colleagues, that we have been organizing it for 5 years. And by the way, Nastya Babanko, she comes from Slavutich. And so basically, the festival still has its legacy even after the festival has ended. And I would like to add up to that, the coolest thing about it is that today, the 14th of September, is the birthday for Anastasia Babanko, which is very cool. Congratulations. And the 3rd of November is the birthday of Жанна Озірна, who directed Bond. So we're going to celebrate through the festival all the time. And Katya Hornostai, maybe you don't know, but she's the director of the film Stop Zemlya that is going to be distributed to Cherchez very, very soon. And before that, it has been presented in Ukraine and Berlinale Film Festival, and it has won the Generation Award there. And I'm sure that it will be really nicely treated by Ukrainian audience. Do not miss out. Yes, and one more thing that I have forgotten, one thing that I haven't mentioned, because I don't watch series, but even I know the series that is called Sex and Sex Education, and Alice Seabright, she is actually the director who made the series Sex Education. So I really love this film, but basically right now we even have it in our program. Okay, Tanya, Nadia's colleague, she's from younger generation and she watches series unlike us. So that is why she's always keeping us updated. What I wanted to outline as well, I see that there's a lot of, let us say, tryouts for us to re-identify the director. So we re-identify in Kira Muratova and Maya Deren, actually reminding people that they have the direct connection to Ukraine, even though they have been multiple times attributed to the Russian or Soviet narratives. So I do believe that there is an important, let us say, continuation for this identification and self-identification war, even on this really small festival field. Okay, so I see that the films are paired. You know, you're making these small connections between the films. I wanted to ask about this conceptual decision. Who would like to comment upon that? Maybe, Philip, you would like to start with this pairing. How did you come up to these pairings? Why have you decided to screen it 2 films a week, but not all together? This is just a question as a person from the audience.
Yeah, the pairings, the Ukrainian films came first, I think, in the sense that this was the first suggestion of the films that we could show. And then, you know, with something that there was a lot more than the 7 films. So it was kind of trying to find films which went with maybe 10 films or 12 films, but then thinking what works best for the 7 programs and which films are available as well. There was, I'm not going to mention any names of films, but there was one film that from the UK that we would love to have had in the program, but sadly it wasn't possible. So there were these issues as well, and it's fantastic that you managed to get the rights to show Meshes of the Afternoon, which is obviously a classic in the history of cinema. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to get films to show in an online space, even though many of these films were already on YouTube, it's a strange situation. So yeah, I think once we knew which the Ukraine films were going to be, it was then trying to find the British films that fit. And I don't want this to sound arrogant, but you know, from the UK we had a lot more choices of films that we could choose from, because we have many hundreds and hundreds of short films being made every year. We get around about 2,000 submissions for the Short Film Festival of UK films. So there's a lot of films here in the UK. Not all of them are very good. That's the other problem. We have a lot of bad films. So I think that answers your question.
Надю, розкажи про те, наскільки
Okay, Nadia, can you tell us whether what really hard for you to find the films was this problem of having a lot of content, whether the content was oversaturated? Was there a problem to select films for Ukrainian parts? We've had certain asymmetry for the historical period. We really wanted to make a really good representative program that would show some certain evolution of the film, because sometimes we do not talk about those female directors, but there existed, and they were really cool, and that was at the beginning, at the dawn of cinema. And that was a paradox. There were no problems with female directors at the very beginning. And, you know, as Phil is really proud of having this saturation and diversity in the UK films, so I can be proud that I have learned a lot about, for example, Jablonska and others. So we have a lot of material that has never been available before. We had a lot of things to choose from, like Ivga Grigorovich, Maya Deren. We could also include a lot of moments through there. We have Kira Muratova, but for example, we had this period as 1990s. There are a couple of names that we're not going to mention, but we didn't have a lot of female directors then. There is certain gap between Kira Muratova and the contemporary filmmaking. And we didn't have a lot of women presented in film in the 90s. It was really hard for us to choose from the contemporary female directors. We have a lot of those, and it was really hard for us to choose. We have a lot of good films and not that good. And for me, that was my final decision, I guess, to show this really nice female voices, to show this bold directing, because to show the directors that show their own signature style. Because we had some films that were really just, you know, just good films. They were just good films, but it was not very much connected to our main idea. But for me, that was important to maybe highlight some of the things. Okay, good. Then question to the both of you. I'm making a step back to the main concept. The festival is dealing with the issue of female cinema and female filmmaking. And I wanted to ask you, why do you believe it is important to talk about that? And is there really that kind of phenomena as female film So is there some kind of artistic differences, whether the film is made by a woman or made by man, or is there any other difference? Why do you have set it out this concept of female film? So maybe we'll start with Nadia as the initiator of this idea. Okay, there's no this kind of things that make the female film maybe homogeneous. So we have the festival of female filmmakers, but I don't think that there is such a phenomenon as female cinema, because good film is about the main message that the author sends you, and author is always a very bright personality that is not just limited to sex or gender. But why should we do that? Because there is the certain disproportion in the perspectives, in the representation of some certain types of experiences. And it's quite clear that women, they do have more experience as women, and they have more access to this experience than the male directors do. Even though a lot of men, they're also making the stories about women. Let us recall maybe Lars von Trier or Pedro Almodovar. We can see their images in the author cinema in Europe. It was really clear for them that they're making the main characters as female characters. But in the way this experience is shown from the male gaze, it's not always believable. And it was very interesting for me to take a look at how women who have this experience of being women, how they work with female experiences. And there is certain disproportion of how we deal with that. So the task for us not to make some kind of generalization and to show that this is what female made films look like. We wanted to show the diversity of it, that it is powerful, it is broad, it is different, and we wanted to outline the problems and ideas that will be more visible in those films than, for example, in mainstream filmmaking or in author films that made by men. For me, an important topic that can be highlighted here is the topic of body and bodily experiences. It is about unique experience and, unique relationship between women and their bodies. That is something very intimate. And the issues of control over your body, it's about the ideas of choosing your body practices, reproductive practices. This is something that is very important, and it is very important because, half of humanity is made of women and half of population is made of women, but we do not see that streamed. It's not been shown on air. So Philip, we have this type, to idealize everything that is located behind the western border of Ukraine. Maybe you can tell us whether it's a much better situation with the representation of female voices in the British film, and what was the overall dynamics when this idea and this issue has been highlighted as well. So whether some additional support in, for example, budgeting of filmmaking. So do you consider it an issue? So what is the situation with female filmmaking for UK right now?
I mean, I think following on from what Nadia was saying, I think it's about the diversity of voices and inclusivity of all different types of filmmakers. It's not just about gender, but ethnicity as well within the UK, about making those voices heard to audiences, because it is about their experiences. But yeah, I agree that women filmmakers don't make women films, they make films, but it's from their perspective. Certainly within the UK, having been running the London Short Film Festival since 2004, there's always been a strong turnout of women short filmmakers. We have every year maybe 35-40% of the films shown at the festival are by women filmmakers. The big issue is that we've found, and we've actually done panel events around this issue, is that a lot of those filmmakers up till more recent times haven't really been developing beyond short films, and there was a lot of questions around why that was. There are some very well-known British filmmakers that have broken through, like Andrea Arnold and Lynn Ramsey in the 2000s, but these were just one or two names, but now we seem to have quite a good, it's better. We've had feature films in the cinema just recently by Prano Bailey Bond, by Claire Oakley. These are filmmakers that have, had a body of short films behind them. So there is definitely a move to more voices within cinema, whether that be, as I said, by different gender or by ethnicity. But yeah, I think in the past it was hard, which is why there's not really many films in this program, if any, from the 1960s or the 1970s. I think a lot of women filmmakers working in those eras would maybe work in much more experimental areas. But yeah, of course, there are names from those periods. But I think now for more commercial work and for TV, as you mentioned, Alice Seabright has been making Sex Education. We've had a number of women directors on a number of different TV series over the last few years. So I think things are definitely in the commercial world, in the TV world, in the commercial feature film world, things are improving slightly the way they maybe are in the US as well. In terms of Western cinema, I mean, we could start talking about other forms of cinema in other countries, but this would be a much bigger conversation.
Дякую, Філіпе.
Thank you for that. I think that's, in Ukraine, the situation is getting better as well. But we still have some inequality because, for example, from my point of view, I have noticed that we have a lot of women coming to the author filmmaking, to documentary filmmaking. But when it comes to big scale, big budget projects and commercial projects, then the number of female authors decreases. So maybe Nadia, we would like to add up to the story as a director. Maybe you would like to add up something from your personal experience. What is it about and what have you faced working as a female director? Well, I see the trend of actually empowering the female directors point of view, and I think that the strongest Ukrainian names, the names of tomorrow in directing, they're mostly we have some boys who've directed as well, but we have a lot of women and we have a lot of girls who have been making really strong films. But I can agree with you as well that it happens on the territory of a small budget films. So we're speaking about maybe documentary or non-fiction films, maybe some author debuts, festival films, but we really would like to see those successes on the territory of the commercial films with big budget films. I really would like to see the genre films or big action films. I can only recall just one film by that was Christina Sivolab, and I don't know the budget of the film that dedicated, and I really would like to see our women be able to make their living out of the money, out of the directing, for it not to be your vocation or something that you have to sacrifice your life for or sacrifice your financial comfort or financial security for, or I don't really want the situation to happen when you have to work on a daily job to be able to make a film. I really would like to see that we would be able to actually make a living from directing and from filmmaking. And there's a lot of problems that are being raised in this context about the overall position of women in Ukraine. And we have these historical legacies that we believe that men are treated as breadwinners. So sometimes we're offering a lower payment, a lower salary for women for the very same job that can be done. So, the girls can't handle it, or the girls are not going to be doing some kind of technical things that are really good paid for. So they'll be doing something for the culture or for the kitchen. So there is industry, the people who are working there, and I really see the great asymmetry in that, in this access to industry. Okay, getting back to program creating. So Nadia, you're a woman. Philip, you're a man. So did you have any kind of misunderstanding based on that? Because the topic is very specific. They were speaking about the female filmmaking. So did you have this curators differences in points of view.
I think
Well,
we had different.
I didn't think we had differences. We're starting to speak at the same
I think
time.
we had differences on a taste, maybe our tastes of films rather than subject matter, because I know there was a few films that you saw, Nadia, from the UK that you weren't so keen on. It wasn't necessarily connected to them being, you know, by a woman director or the subject matter. It was just more that you just didn't like the film on a personal taste. So no, we didn't. Other than that, we didn't have any problems with, or as far as I was concerned, we didn't have any problems. But maybe you want to say something.
Абсолютно точно був
Well,
один
I
фільм.
would agree to that because there was one film that Philip has offered, and how to put it in the right way, I can't say that I didn't like it. It's just that I couldn't make this connection between me and the film, and I have thought that it would be really hard for us to show this film. You know, I thought it wouldn't be really comprehended by Ukrainian audiences. So I've taken this strong decision of actually make a judgment on behalf of Ukrainian audience. So I think there was some things that are in common between Ukrainian and British audiences, like, you know, the Ukrainian or British humor. This is something that can be hardly broadcasted to a different culture. But I would like to say that otherwise, this experience of curating it and programming it together, that was really cool. Because, you know, I sometimes feel myself really lonely, basically, in programming that. So, you know, we have found the new office in this film hub for the very first day today. And I've met Marisa Nikityuk and Anton Baybakov. And we have had a strong discussion on Annette, and all of the present, they have also shared their opinions. And I have just had the thought that sometimes we have very different points of view for the very same films and very same issues. Because, you know, I don't even participate in those discussions because my points of view or my feelings and emotions about something is completely different about that. It was very interesting for me to work with Philip because I was absolutely impressed by the choices he made. I didn't have a lot of high expectations, but when I watched those films, I've absolutely enjoyed all of the films that we have chosen, because the Watchy Ones, that was a fabulous film. I was impressed by it. I really liked Merrifield and how she's works with a dialogue with Maya Deren, and how she works out with Yevga Grigorovich about this instructional and educational film. So actually, I've had an unbelievable connection with my colleague curator. Okay, a couple of moments that I wanted to outline. That's first of all, we're waiting for your questions, and you'll be able to ask your questions in the comment section on Facebook and on YouTube, and it would be very interesting for us to get in your question in discussion as well. And another important, that's an interpretation that you are listening right now into Ukrainian is being made by Katya Popravka, because if you're watching this stream, you're already aware about this voice. Okay, but in social media, we also have, I don't know, can I show some other people who sell? Okay, so we have our Takflix communication manager, Tanya. She has been our main person responsible for our communication. She will pass all the questions to you. We will be following and tracking your questions. You can even ask some really unexpected questions, but of course, non-violent questions. But let us talk. Let us talk. Okay, so as a person who talks here, I would like to have a question from the person who knows the offline world, the world of offline festivals. And right now we have an online festival. Philip, for multiple years, you have been working on a real festival. And I know that it's not the very first experience for your online activities. So what do you think about this medium of online festivals? Will it work out? Whether it's already familiar for you, what is the potential of online festivals?
I mean, I think the feeling that I get from audiences and filmmakers as well is that they do want to be back into physical spaces, into cinemas. And meeting each other at networking events in the bar. It's very easy to connect with people that way. Of course, what's so fantastic about online is the accessibility of the festival to reach a much bigger audience. And, you know, in a way, industry events and panels, rather than having 100 people in a cinema, can now have 500 people, 700 people watching on a Zoom or in a online space. And that's been something that a lot of festivals have really really worked hard to develop, that online side. And now we're slowly going back to post-COVID world. I mean, of course, we know that it's not over yet, but there are a lot more physical festivals now happening. In London, we have some coming up. But I think, you know, for me, with the London Short Film Festival, even though we plan to be back in physical cinemas, we're going to develop a lot more activity online that we learned from doing the last festival. And it's been interesting because a lot of festivals were very negative towards the online space for many, many years. They didn't want to engage with online. It was about the experience of the festival in the cinema. That has changed. They had to learn very quickly. Many festivals had to learn very quickly how to move into the online space. And once they did move into the online space, they thought it was a good space to be. So all that negativity, all those years, now people are learning a new way to go forward. So I think going forward, yes, online festivals will continue, but they'll continue alongside physical festivals. So that's going to be interesting the next few years.
And we have some questions. Question from Ala Derjak. So, Philip, we have a question already, and there's a question directly, not to make a double translation. The question was in English, so Ilya will be doing the translation. So I'm reading the original. So how do you think, can we get British audience interested in Ukrainian films, as it's quite niche film and often requires some social and political awareness? Like other people would know the context. So are there any specifics about Ukrainian films for the British audience? What do you think? Does Ukrainian film has a chance in Britain?
I mean, I think there's an interest in people that watch film to learn about new cultures and to discover new cinematic voices and new filmmakers. And that's why it's exciting, you know, to present these films from Ukraine within this online space and make them available to British audiences. I think, you know, if you're into cinema and you're into film, you do want to learn about other cultures and you want to see films from other countries. I think that's really important. We don't want to all watch the same films from the same places over and over again. I mean, maybe some people do, but I think certainly audiences that engage with international cinema and with film festivals will be really excited to see what's coming out or what has come out of Ukraine in the past and the new films that are coming through as well within the program.
Дякую, Філіпе. Я думаю, що
Well, thank you, Philip. I think that's maybe in Ukraine we don't have any problems with the accessibility and comprehensive levels of British film because we're used to be watching the films from abroad because we didn't have a lot of Ukrainian films before, but maybe Nadia would add up to that as well. Well, I think that we have some certain tendencies about what kind of films we're watching from the UK. We have a lot of international content and international films coming from abroad, but we have never watched, for example, the films by non-white British authors, and we are not aware of the post-colonial context of the British filmmaking. That was one of the moments of our discussion. We had a lot of films and we had they're very interesting films, but we have a different position in this of issues about the colonized and colonizer, because Britain has an experience of being the metropole, and Ukraine has been the country that has been colonized for more than 300 years. So we have a different tradition and different approach in searching for authenticity and identity in the province of Ukraine. So when we are going at Fontes, we're going to something in deep. For the UK, there was point of view from London to the rest of the world. So right now there is a different shift, like there's no such thing as the general vision of the British film. There are different multiple voices, post-colonial as well. And I do believe that as a Ukrainian audience and Ukrainian culture, we're not ready to hear those different post-colonial voices yet. And a little bit about Takflix. So right now there's a moment of advertising. Takflix has Patreon accounts, so we'll be able to support us and you will have the access to this secret chat. And that you'll be able to join us as well. There is the secret chapter that is called Parfan, the soul interpreter. So basically, we've had this conversation about that. We had some hateful comments on Cherchez film. This is the film about the Roma gay boy who lives in a traditional Roma community. He's getting married, but being in love with another man, and there is a drama about that. So the story is that there are the representatives of the traditional Roma communities. They've learned about this film. They've bought it online to watch this film, and they've started to write really hateful and threatening comments in our pages, in our media. But there are some homophobic comments and xenophobic comments about Ukrainian film as well. So, as Takflix, as platform, we're trying to show Ukrainian films and its multiplicity and its diversity. We understand that it's not only about the ethnical Ukrainians living in Ukraine. We have Crimean Tatars, we have Romas, we have people of Jewish descent here. But Ukraine is being treated as, very rustical, very rural film. And we have had the discussion about the poetical film that we're really proud of. But we still have to get to this post-colonial point of view. There's something that we still have to explore. And I'm sure there's something that we can learn from the British post-colonial critique. Can you just imagine, London as the capital of Great Britain, and we are not sitting there, and we have a different point of view out of London. And I'm sure that it's very good that we have included those films. 2 questions. Will we have some promotions for the festival for the British audiences? And the second question would be, so maybe you as a curators would advise us something about the feminist optics in film, for maybe we can get into those ideas more. If I may, I will answer these questions briefly, and then I'll pass the floor to Philip about the communication to the British audience, because we already have the British promo as well. We have the London Shores Film Festival as our main promo partner. They're been working on this directly. I think that Philip will tell you more about what their team do, but it's very good a lot. We have the support of the London Short Film Festival already, because they are very fashionable and trendy events. I have been there physically. It is a really cool event. And for us to be represented and associated with them is already really good. But we still have some media partners from UK, and I think that's right now we had also some articles on the Cine Europe. This is the pan-European edition, and we're working with the international platforms as one of the goals of our project is to make Ukrainian female filmmakers more visible in the international context. But speaking about the next question, giving an advice of what you can do. We're going to have a free of charge educational program. All of the events have already been announced in the schedule at our site. We're going to have more detailed information in our social media on Facebook and in our description of events. We're going to have a really great event that is going to be called the Feminist Film Critic, Western Theory and the Eastern European Context. We're going to have this event held on the 12th of October, and we're going to have Olga Bryukhovetsky and Daria Badior participating in this discussion. They both are very aware of the female and male gaze theories. They're going to tell you all about these critical ideas. We're going to have Maria Kushinovka, the author and the founder as a Kinky Babadook. This is at least one of the few critical feminist film critic publications that are commenting the film process from the feminist position. So industry, money, the critique of the representation, so all of the stories and processes, all of the comments. So I would like to ask you to join this event on the 12th of October. We're going to have Sarah Wood next week. So on one hand, she's a director and a theoretic of the film, but I think that Phil can tell us more about that.
Yes. Shall I will quickly tell more about that. Yeah, we have.
So yes, there was also the question of how can you what can you advise of how you can settle out more about these issues.
Sorry, is that a question for me? I missed that.
Yes, there was the question to the both of the curators of basically, can you also advise people something that you could read or you can watch or you can listen to about the feminist filmmakers and the feminist optics in the film, just for us to get basically into the topic, but maybe you can continue commenting of what Nadia has already said.
Yeah, I think that does lead on to the discussion that I'll be having with Sarah Wood next week. Although she's one of the filmmakers in the program, she's also an academic in the history of cinema and specifically the history of women filmmaking, both in the UK and internationally. So I think that conversation is going to be really interesting from a historical perspective, talking about the legacy of Maya Deren, the legacy of Mary Field and other filmmakers from that earlier era, and how that feeds into her own work as well. Specifically, as I said, she works a lot with archive and a lot with documentary. In terms of the promotion for this, for the Ukrainian films within the UK, we do have a small marketing team on LSFF, and that is in motion, going through our social medias and newsletters, and that's all happening now alongside the the other event I was going to say was we're speaking to some of the more contemporary filmmakers in the program with a couple of UK women producers on the 5th of October to talk about where things are now in 2021 with the UK film industry and with specifically with UK women filmmakers. I think that was all the questions that were part of that section. I'm not sure.
Well,
thank you. Well, I think that we have covered some main questions that might be interested for the audience of our festival, starting from Thursday. In 2 days, you will be able to see the the two first films. You will be able to watch the 2 films by Maya Deren, Meshes of the Afternoon, and Mary Field, 4 and 25 Girls. And every next week on Thursday, you'll be able to see another pair. So please follow our Facebook events page. Please follow the pages of our festival on Facebook, on YouTube. So join us in our live events, and you will learn more and more about what events we're going to have with our live participants, what will be the conversations and discussions. And I really would like to thank our participants, but I see Nadia wants to say something more. We have more questions. Yes, please. Yeah, there was a question. Tanya has just sent you some new question. Okay, we have another question. The educational program will be in real-time program. Maybe there will be the recordings and the video then will be provided to YouTube. That is a technical question, I guess. Yes, we will save all the videos on YouTube, and you will be able to watch them both on YouTube and Facebook. There will be specifically provided for all of you. We understand that not all of the people can join us live, but we will definitely save those videos, and you can keep on asking your questions in the comments. We can continue the discussion. So please join us on our YouTube channel on Takflix, and I will take a little bit again of our video. I'll show you Tanya from there if you'll be able to see her. Yes, I see her. Oh, cool. You see she's blurred and unblurred then. Okay, so this is our communication manager. media. She's really great, and she's responsible for the social media, and she works really hard for you to be able to learn everything that is possible about Ukrainian film, where to go, where to watch, and she will be guiding all of this process. Okay, I think that the attention span of our audience has already narrowed as much as possible. There is another question coming out. You know, the people are only getting heated up. People are now want to start this conversation. Yes, I see those questions. I'm not really sure that we should read them out. Censorship. No, but okay, if you would like to do that, but of course, they will take another couple of minutes of our air. Okay, so have you watched the films of Lucrezia Martel, Larissa Shepitko? And if you have watched those films, do you like them? So Philip, would you like to start?
I've seen some of the work of Lucrezia Martel, yes, but I've seen a couple of her feature films, but I'm not someone that I can really speak about them beyond the fact that I've seen them and I enjoyed them. I don't know the other filmmaker, no.
Я не бачила фільми.
I haven't seen the films by the first director. I'm only heard about that. I've seen the films of Larissa Shepitko and Alicia Rohrbacher, but I was impressed by some of those, and they're very interesting directors, and I really like it because that just works with the social problematics as well. And by the way, that's very interesting. There was something, I don't know, of a little bit of Ken Loach in the context of our conversation, because you might know that Ken Loach is a very important director. Maybe he works with this, you know, fable-like ideas, and this, I would say, you know, a little bit of devilish sanctity. And about Larissa Shepitko, I'm not very that much interested in her filmmaking, but about her biography, she actually died in a car crash when she was going to make her next film. And you know, that was something that you really get impressed about, and you get really impressed with. And by the way, we have been rewatching this film, Ilya. Can you tell us what is The Dissension? Yes, so yes, there was a film by Larissa Shepitko, The Dissension, and I was surprised by this fact that when we speak about Larissa Shepitko and Kira Muratova as the significant directors of the Soviet time, and I was really impressed how different they are. I do not want to compare them, and I don't want to choose from one, but those are so different objects and so different ways of making films. And there is this kind of diversity that we have more than just one person like you. I don't know, I'm choosing people who we can put into our program, but that's important. That's important. That is very important, and that's powerful. Okay. Thank you very much, Dan. I would like to thank our great speakers. And as a moderator, with my decision, I would like to end our conversation for today. Please follow our events on Facebook on 7plus7.takflix.com. Follow us there and watch female films. Please promote it and make your own films. And I think we'll meet you soon in our online events and in our online screenings. Thank you for being with us today.